So hello revolutionaries and welcome back to another video on our general psychology series. So today we're going to do, as is evident from the title, unit 6, theories of personality. So what are theories of personality? It basically means that theories about personality, right? So before reading about something we should know what it is. Before reading about its theories, like what people have given about its characteristics, or about its types. Theories basically hold a lot of different things about a concept or about a particular term. But before delving into the theories, we need to understand what that term is, what that concept is, right? So in this case here, we need to understand what personality is before reading about theories of personality. So what do you mean by personality here? I'm not reading all of it, I'll just sum it up in a definition. So, personality is the way we act, behave, and interact with people, as also how we think and feel as individuals towards ourselves and others. Now, this is my self made definition once again, so there might be some mistakes in it or some drawbacks that I have in this. So, it would still be better if you read the definitions of personality that is given here. There are 3 or 4 different definitions of personalities by different psychologists, so it's always good to read all of them, and after that you can read this definition that I've created, which will definitely be beneficial in some way. So again, what is personality? It is the way we act, behave, and interact with people. So it's basically the same thing, the way we act with people. Act means act can be said of, like, when you're working with someone, and then how you act with them, how you act cordially with them, how your functioning is with that with the person in a particular task. That is more accurate definition of acting or act. Okay, then behave is how you behave, like behave simply means how you behave emotionally with that person. All right, how you emotionally behave that person, what are your feelings towards that person, and how you portray those feelings towards that other person. And interact is physical interaction. It's not exactly like I've defined, but these are the more accurate definitions if you go into depth about these terms. And interact with how you physically interact with that person. So basically, to sum it up, how you interact with the other person, or how you, I've obviously made them into 3 different terms. So how you act, act means, like I told you, how you act, how you behave, and how you interact with other people or other individuals, and how you think about them, like in your mind, in your mentality, what your image about that other person is, and what your image about yourself is. These are the factors that define personality. So personality is not a single concept. Okay, personality does not have a single definition that can be, just like I can tell you, and then you'll say, okay, this is personality, so this is how we will recognize personality. So personality is a concept. Okay, personality is not a trait, or personality is not one particular thing that you can just go and define and say that this is personality. Personality is a mix up of several things. It's a combination of several factors. So now we know what personality is. In short, if you want to put it really short, this is actually a lengthy definition a bit. If you want to put it really short, then personality is how you interact with the other people and how you think of themselves and yourself. Okay. So after personality, now we'll read about theories of personality. Psychoanalytic theories are the first in this. So what are psychoanalytic theories? What are psychoanalytic theories? I don't know if you've read about these psychoanalytic theories before. And in fact, if you know about this great philosopher and physician Sigmund Freud, he's really famous, right? So, and he had a really big deal to do in these psychoanalytic theories. So he developed his theory while doing clinical practice with patients. So obviously he did a lot of practical or field work, because at those times there weren't some very great instruments or machines, so they refer to uh, actual physical work. So psychoanalytic theories are basically psychological theories and therapeutic techniques which were developed by Sigmund Freud. This whole term, the psychoanalytic term, is given by Sigmund Freud itself. Okay, is given for, or you can say, psychoanalytic means psychological, and using that psychology in therapies. Okay, in therapy, like in helping people. or in actually practically applying psychology on people. That is what psychoanalogy is. So what's the concept of the psychoanalytic theory? Sigmund Freud was a major contributor of the psychoanalytic theories of personality. Unconscious mental processes were central to his theory. Okay, so unconscious mental processes were really important to this theory. He brought out three models to show how the mind works. So now, to define how our brain works, this is not actually not about only personality. Personality is one concept out of it. All right, Sigmund Freud did a big research, he did a really big deal of work, and he defined how our mind works, and out of that one concept is of personality. So it directly or indirectly, it also shows how personality works as well. So these three models were a topographic model of the psyche, a structural model of our personality, and psychological stages of development. So let's first read about topographic model of the psyche. Freud divided mind into three levels. Now again, there are three levels within the first level of these three models. First is conscious, second is pre-conscious, and third is unconscious. I mean, I've made the video for this lesson so many times already, and I deleted it so many times. That's because something or the other thing was always left here, or the video got stuck in between, or sometimes I just stop it in between. So this is my, I think, probably fifth or sixth attempt in making the videos for this lesson, and it's really hard. It's really tough to explain these things, like what conscious is, what pre-conscious is, what unconscious is, what id, ego, and superego are. These are really not actually, they are not difficult to understand, but these concepts are really hard to explain. So let's start with conscious. Conscious mind is the part that is actually thinking. So here we are, topographic. So conscious mind is the part that is actually taking part in real time activities. The one that deals with the current information, that is all the thoughts, feelings, and actions of which you are aware at the very moment. So right now my conscious part is teaching to you. Alright, your conscious part is learning from me. This is what our conscious mind is doing right now. The role of our conscious mind is to deal with the present at the moment situation. That is what conscious mind does. All right, so let's say that you are feeling thirsty, so you get up, you go and get yourself a glass of water. So that act, the act of getting up and getting yourself a glass of water, that is done by the conscious mind. All right, while when you are sleeping, when you're in your sleep, you're not conscious, right? You're not doing anything consciously, it's just all happening by itself. So that is your pre-conscious, or maybe it comes under unconscious, something like that, the other phases, that is to say, and not under conscious mind. Conscious mind is part of those things which you do willingly and on purpose and by your own wishes, or at least the things that you are aware of that you are doing. All right, so let's say that you are wearing your shoes. So you are aware of the fact that you are wearing shoes, right? It's not like your hands are moving by themselves and your legs are just wearing shoes and you're not even aware of it, and it's happening by itself, right? So I mean, there's always this, there's always this power tussle between these different stages of mind. There are some people, geniuses like Albert Einstein. I mean, when they reach a certain age, then their pre-conscious or subconscious mind starts taking over the conscious mind. Then they start doing things without actually meaning to. I mean, you can see that person actually moving his hand or drawing weird shapes in the air, and he isn't even aware of it. Like, he doesn't even know what he's doing. He might even start tinkling with other things or moving his hand here and there, and he wouldn't actually realize what he's doing until you point it out to him. So there's always this kind of power tussle, like who will be more superior. So in people who are actual genius, this pre-conscious mind, this conscious mind starts to take place of the pre-conscious mind. The conscious mind starts to go into like takes a little back seat and focuses on thinking and solving analytic abilities, like it starts to take the back seat and starts focusing on intellectual things, while the pre-conscious mind, whose actual work was to focus on intellectual things, comes to the forefront and start taking and takes the place of the conscious mind and starts looking after the outside things, the abstract things or the physical things. So this is what conscious mind is. Conscious mind is that part of the mind which you're aware of, or which takes part in real-time activities, in actual on-the-spot activities. Now moving on to pre-conscious or subconscious mind deals with all the background or unimportant information that is associated with the activities that the conscious mind is performing. Pre-conscious mind observes thoughts and information which we become aware of only after we pay attention to. Sometime you might have think that while you're walking on a road, you suddenly start thinking some things, and you, after some time, you didn't even realize what you were. I mean, after some time, you suddenly realized that, oh, I was thinking these things. I mean, you weren't like, it's not like you actually thought that, okay, I will think about that person and I will think about that situation. It just happens by itself. You think, you suddenly start thinking about some guy, and that suddenly your brain takes you to some other concept, maybe thinking about some road or some car or something else and else and else. And it's not like you're commanding your brain that first you think about car, then you think about that person, then you think about the road, then you think about the weather. It is happening by itself. So this is, and all this while, let's imagine a situation. Let's make it really, really simple. So you're just walking down the road, okay? You're walking down on the road. You are out for a stroll, let's say, and you're in a park. And while you're strolling in the park, you suddenly start thinking about the grass. Wow, how fresh the grass is! How really sharp these grass blades are! And you suddenly start. Then suddenly you change that topic and suddenly start thinking about the weather. Wow, the weather is really cool. The breeze is also good. And oh, again it suddenly shifts, and you start thinking about when was the last times you strolled in such a weather, and what kind of atmosphere that was, in what kind of situation you were in, who were your friends at that time, what the kind of things you did. So it's not like you command yourself that I want to think about these things. These are happen, you're aware of these things, and still you do not have any particular command over them. I mean, they are happening, they are more like they are just happening simultaneously, one by one, and you are just like kind of observing them. Instead of actively commanding them to happen in a particular sequence, you are just observing them from a little bit of distance. You know that these thoughts are taking place inside your head, but you are not you are not like consciously uh, creating those thoughts. You are more like observing those thoughts from a little bit of backseat. So this is what our pre-conscious or subconscious mind is. I mean, like I said, I really can't actually explain it in depth. So basically you have an idea, everyone has an idea about the how we think or how we behave. I mean, most of you must have gone through the situation where you're walking down somewhere and suddenly start thinking about some things, and those things goes to some other things, and then you realize, I mean, you don't actually consciously realize that I was thinking about those things, but you're still aware of them, right? So it's a kind of feeling, and feelings are really hard to explain. They can only be felt, like. So third part is the unconscious mind. Now unconscious mind is a little bit easier to explain than the pre-conscious mind. Unconscious mind is basically, you can say, if you've seen Harry Potter, and you know that there's a bank, Gringotts, right? And there's an underground bank, and it's so huge, like it goes so deep underground. So imagine the lowest layer of that Gringotts bank, and there is a vault. There is your vault in there, and in that vault you've kept or hidden all your all of your desires that are not acceptable by society or that are acceptable by other people. So this is what sums up your unconscious mind. Your unconscious mind is the last level of your mind. You're the storehouse, the safe locker of your mind, which holds or hides desires, feelings, and motivations that in fact you yourself are unaware of. Okay, you yourself don't know that you have these kinds of feelings or desires. So let me give you an example. See, uh, like pedophilia cases or child rape cases nowadays are increasing at a huge rate. Okay, like I can see almost every second or third day 2 or 3 news about child rape cases or all these kinds of things. So why do these things take place? Why do these kind of things? This has a lot to do with our unconscious mind, you see. I mean, most people have this deep and hidden desire that they want to do it with little children or small kids, but most of the people, like even you guys, might have this kind of desire, but we live normal life. We live like we love children, but in a healthy way. And we can cuddle with children, we can even sleep with children, but in a good way, in a healthy way, maintaining a good distance. But you see, like these desires come to the forefront. These desires come to your conscious brain when they get a when they get a suitable situation, when they get suitable circumstances, that okay, now the circumstances are good and we can come to the fore. So imagine that a guy who has I mean, there are obviously some people who might not have these ugly desires at their unconscious mind. They might even have good desires, but most or majority of the people have really hideous and really disgusting desires in their unconscious mind. and that's not their fault, of course. I mean, they're not even aware that we have these kinds of desires, so it's not their fault. So let's say that a person who has pedophilia desires inside his unconscious mind, and he is left alone with a small child, a small kid. Maybe their parents really trust this guy and they leave their kid with him, and and they go somewhere out, maybe to the market or somewhere out, and now this guy finds a suitable situation. So he might subconsciously start exploring the body of that little child or start doing inappropriate things. Subconsciously, like, or he might think that I'm just a little bit curious, and he might start heading towards that direction, and over time he'll realize that he actually likes it, he actually is a pedophiliac, and even he himself was not aware of it for so long. So this is what I'm trying to say: these disgusting desires come to the forefront, come to the front seat when situations are suitable for them to come out, because these are the situation, these are the desires, these are the disgusting feelings, once again, which are completely unacceptable by society. Some people, like, necrophilia, they like to have sex with dead bodies. Or there are some people who, like psychopaths, you can call them nowadays, who like to see gore or kill people, or they really like violence, all those kinds of things. And in fact, most, I would say that 95% of humans actually like violence. All right, violence is deep imprinted within our within our mind. Violence is in our blood, you can say. Okay, so violence is a thing that's deep inside almost everyone's unconscious mind. And when suitable conditions arise, when you can display that violence, most people would not hesitate and display that violence. You see, like, you might have seen cases of, like, let's imagine a situation that there gets a robber or someone in your house, and you get a good chance, you have a good chance that you grab a knife, and you have a really good chance to thwack him with that knife, to stab him with that knife. He's not looking towards your side, maybe he has his back towards you, and now you have a really good chance to stab him with that knife. So many people, I mean, as soon as your brain will realize that that the conditions are really suitable, it will take the chance and it will stab that person with the knife, instead of trying to pull out another situation where nobody is harmed. Okay, it will try to realize those feelings of violence, it's try to realize those desires for violence. So all these things are deep inside your unconscious mind. So for most part of your life, you might not even be aware of them at all. You'll just live a good and healthy life and go your own ways, unless, of course, such suitable, such really good conditions arrive, that the desires can come to the fore and satisfy themselves. It plays a vital role in influencing our actions. Now, of course, even though they are at a really back seat, they still influence how we act or how we behave. So that is why, I mean that's obviously why humans get angry. Okay, anger is an emotion that erupts ultimately from the feeling of violence, the feeling to create violence, the feeling to see violence. This is where the feeling of anger comes about. I mean, anger, you can say anger is a really, really minimalistic form of violence that can obviously take huge turns. I mean, now moving on to the second model, which is a structural model of our personality. So Freud proposed that our personality consists of three elements: id, ego, and superego. Now this is about personality, solely about personality. So what are id, ego, and superego? Ego and superego are not those things which you might be imagining that this is ego, okay, and superego is even greater ego. No, these are different concepts. So Freud proposed that our personality consists of three elements: id, ego, superego. Id is this part of personality operates unconsciously. Okay, so this is an unconscious part. We don't actually pay attention to it and make it happen. So whenever there's some term like unconscious, you just think of it as that things that are done without our permission or without really our meaning to. Okay, without, like, you don't actually know about them, and they are just happening by itself, you can say. I mean, like, it's really deep concept. If we really talk about these things, then there's our mind, there's our brain, and then there's something else which is looking at all of them, which commands all of them. So our, like, you can call them that soul, or I don't know what you call that, but there's our brain which commands and does things. But there's something else beside the brain who is actually actively aware of what the brain is thinking, what the brain is doing, but that is not the part of brain itself. if we go like this, we will actually end up delving into philosophy. So it deals with basic instincts, biological needs, and aggressive impulses. So what are basic instincts? Basic instincts are those sudden feelings, or those instincts. I mean, we've already covered instinct in the previous chapter. So instinct is a kind of a natural feeling to a particular stimulation, or to a reaction to a particular stimulation, you can say. So like instinct would be whenever you touch a hot pen or something hot, you would suddenly back off, you will remove your hand from it. So that is an instinct. When you are going into the dark, when you're going into a dark place, you will suddenly get careful, right? That is an instinct. Your instincts are telling you that there might be something dangerous. Even when a child, or even when someone is going into the dark for the very first time, they will still try to be more careful, because that is a part of their instinct. So instincts are, you can kind of say that they are we are born with instincts, you can say. Then after instincts and basic, these are basic instincts. After basic instincts come biological needs. Biological needs are like the need for food, water, air, and all these, they are biological needs. And aggressive impulses, like when you're really high on emotions, those kinds of feelings, the kind of feelings that you get at that time, these are aggressive impulses. So it deals with the basic instincts, the biological needs, and aggressive impulses. And from it, other parts like ego and superego develop. So it is basically the basic principle, or the basic foundation of our personality. It works, now this is the really important part of it. It works on pleasure principle, on pleasure. What the heck? Wait, what did I read? Pleasure. It works on pleasure principle, tendency to avoid pain. Okay, so the principle on which it works, is the pleasure principle. Okay, so what is the pleasure principle? It's basically the tendency to avoid pain and seek pleasure. You can say that this is a part of our basic instinct, our biological need, and aggressive impulse as well. Okay, so basically, like, we as humans, we all want, if you remember your childhood, you'll start to understand, you'll remember that all you wanted was to live a good and healthy life. Okay, so I mean, we all want life where there's no pain, no hurt, no sufferings, and everything is good and good and good, right? Nobody wants a sad and hurtful life. Everybody wants a good life. So this is what this is what is ingrained into our id. This is what our part of id is. So id basically wants that I have a good life, there's no pain, there's no suffering, and only pleasure and pleasure. Okay, only good things are there. The aim of it is to gratify one's immediate needs without considering moral values of society and the individual. So it is basically your, you can say, raw form. It is your most basic, your most raw and purest form. And it says that you want pleasurable things, you want good things, and I want to just satisfy my immediate needs. I don't care about what the other people are thinking, what other people are saying. So let's say that, I mean, like, I told you that one of the deep hidden desires of human beings are viciousness, violence. So somebody feels, I mean, if someone is motivated solely by his id, then let's say that he suddenly has the feeling that I want to see violence, so he will just get up, pick up a knife, murder someone, and see that all that violence. He wouldn't care about what the other people think of him, what the consequences of his actions would be, and whether what he did is right or wrong. So he would have no moral capacity, no moral judgment. All right, he would have no moral judgment, and he wouldn't care about other people's feelings, other people's consideration. So it is basically like kind of selfish instinct, you can say. It's a kind of selfish feeling, like you want to do whatever you want and you don't care about other people. Now it has two driving forces, that is Eros and Thanatos. And this Thanatos is obviously not taken from Thanos, because at that time Thanos was not developed. You can say there was no Thanos. There was in fact no Marvel universe at that time. So Eros is the life force of it. Eros is responsible for our life instinct and survival. It involves desires of sex, reproduction, and pain avoidance. So Eros is basically, you can say, the positive things. Thanatos are the negative things, or you can't actually define them in a positive, negative. You can just say that good or bad, or you can say that I mean, you get it. It solely depends on our feelings, right? See, so Thanatos, the death force or instinct to fight, it is responsible for violence, aggression, and hate, like negative feelings. So I've still used the word negative here, but you can't actually define it as negative. So you see, I mean, I can't actually define it as good or bad feelings either, because in arrows, like pain avoidance, reproduction, most people feel good in these kind of things. But there are still some exceptions, or there are still a lot of people now. Their numbers are increasing day by day. There are still some people who feel good in violence, who feel good in aggression, who feel good in murdering someone, killing someone. So for them, Thanatos would be the good things and arrows would be the bad things. And for other people, arrows would be the good things and Thanatos would be the negative things. So you can just say, I mean, you will just define them as, you can just differentiate them. That's all. You can't label them that these are the good things, these are the bad ones, these are the positive aspects, these are the negative aspects of id. You can just distinct them that these are two separate concepts of id. One is eros, second is thanatos. Eros is related to life instinct and survival, so eros is basically related to survival, and thanatos is related to death force or death. So Eros moves you towards feelings of survival, and Thanatos moves you towards feelings of death or feelings of depreciation, you can say. So the more dominated you are by your, the more your id is dominated by your Eros, the more the kind of things, the kind of pleasure-seeking things that you would do would move towards uh, life force. Okay, and the more dominated it is by thanatos, the more pleasure seeking things you would do would move towards death and destruction. Not might It might not be your own but someone else's. So you see, this is the difference between eros and thanatos and id. So when personality is dominated by id, then individual tend to become more impulsive. Example, a kid. So when your personality is more dominated by your id, you become very childish, very kid like. And I think like it happens with the kind of you can say like must have heard about young millionaires who do whatever they want, to enjoy life, who spend their life on different kind of things. So their personalities, uh, I mean, even to define it more accurately, like the children of really uh, rich people, like billionaires, millionaires, their children, they tend to be more id dominated. Okay, because they have all the means necessary to fulfill their needs, so they tend to be more id dominated. Okay, so like they will spend their money on immediate gratifications. They will try to immediately gratify their feelings, their desires. Like they want a supercar, they want a super bike, they'll just go and buy it. Okay, they won't give it a second thought. They might not give it like, I don't really need it and I don't think I should get it. They're dominated by their id, so they become impulsive. Like whatever they're feeling at the moment, they will try to immediately satisfy that desire. Second comes the concept of ego. This is the reality checker of our personality. So this part of personality, also here it is ego. This part of personality emerges from id. Again, obviously, ego and superego both emerge from id. Both are part of id, and its objective is to strike a balance between its impulsive needs and the reality of the world. All right. I mean, if there was only one concept and that was of id, then there would be no development, there would be no humans alive on this earth as of now, right? I mean, everybody would do whatever they would feel like, and we would just basically die in a couple of years. So there's this second thing then, that is ego. Ego is the reality checker. So you can basically say that it works in three steps. So the first step is id. Id generates an impulse. I mean, we'll only cover the first two steps as of now until we reach superego. So it generates an impulse or a desire and then sends it to ego. Then ego checks it with its outside surroundings, with its social surroundings, whether the desire is okay, whether the desire is desire is able to manifest into reality or not, whether the desire is realistic or not. I mean, it can be fulfilled, or it's just it's just a wish, or it's just a kind of dream that's unrealistic. So then ego gives it a check, and ego gives the signal that okay, this desire can be fulfilled or this desire cannot be fulfilled. Ego, you can't say that ego is actually moral. Okay, you won't say that ego is the moral concept. I mean, let's say that What do I say? That, yeah, let's say that there's a guy who wants to rob a bank. Okay, and so this impulse is generated by id. Id generates an impulse that I want a lot of money, and for that I want to rob a bank. Then ego checks it's with the social surroundings, with the like environmental surroundings of that person, that whether he has the ability and the capabilities to rob a bank or not. It doesn't take into consideration whether he should rob a bank or he shouldn't. It just takes into consideration whether he can rob the bank or he cannot. So ego basically works about can or cannot, whereas ego is about should or should not. All right. So then the ego will give it a reality check that what you're thinking is just wishful thinking. You can't actually rob a bank. There's no way you'll be able to be successful in it. You don't have the means, you don't have the tools, you don't have the capabilities. Okay, you don't have the right network. So just think, forget about it. It works on logic only. If ego is not able to resolve the conflict between the impulsive demands of id and realistic demands of people, then there would be development of stress and anxiety. Now, obviously, it generated a demand, and ego said that you're not able to satisfy the demand, go back and just sleep. So there's this conflict now. Okay, id wants something done, ego is saying that it can't be done, so it's stuck in between. And with this, when there's something stuck in between, there's always tension and anxiety and stress. All right. So stress and anxiety starts developing. So id says that I want an ice cream. Okay, but it's winter time and there are, let's say, probably there's no ice creams anywhere. Okay, so it's in winter. So ego says to id that no, 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 you can't have an ice cream because it's winter, there are no ice creams. Then if it's a child, I mean, if it's an adult, then he'll realize, yeah, of course, where can I get the ice cream? It's no big deal, just forget about it. I mean, it will just remove that impulse, erase that impulse, that feeling. But if it's a child, then he'll start crying. Maybe he'll start he'll get really stressed out that I want an ice cream, I really want it. He'll start expressing anxiety and stress through the act of crying, or through some other acts. It might be anything. But the thing is that the main concept here is that he will develop stress, he will develop anxiety about that particular thing, that I wanted an ice cream but I'm not having able to have an ice cream. He will keep on thinking about having an ice cream. I mean, which is definitely unrealistic. Then third part is the superego part. Superego. So superego, like it says here, is the moral master or moral guru of our personality. It is the moral aspect of our personality. Role of the superego is to internalize the moral and ethical value of society through the process of socialization. All right. So it tells you to blend in within the society, to act like what other people are doing, in order to ingrain into you moral and ethical values. That what other people are doing, what majority of them are doing, is morally good, is ethically good. These are the good things. So you follow their example and you blend in with other people. You become more social. Okay, and you forget bad things. You forget immoral things. It controls the impulsive urges of the id and pursues ego to choose morally appropriate behavior instead of only realistic behavior. Alright. So now let's take our example back again, that a person, id generates the impulse of robbing a bank. Okay, and he wants to rob a bank. But let's change the situation a little bit here. So now this impulse goes to ego checks whether he is able to rob a bank or he isn't. Let's say that he is able to rob a bank, he has the right connections, he has the right tools, he is skillful enough to do it, he has the right capabilities. So ego will pass it on, ego will pass the decision that okay, you go rob a bank, you can rob a bank. But now it's up to superego now has the final decision. Now it's the not the final decision actually, you can just say that it's the last stage where the decision must go through. Okay, the last process, you can say. I mean, it's entirely up to ourselves that if we really want to listen to the superego or not. It's not like that superego says that this is wrong, so you will just stop, you won't do it. I mean, if this was the case, then everyone in this world would be moral, right? There wouldn't only be good human beings. But there is some, like I said, there's some different concept. I don't know what to call it, soul or what you would like to call it. But there is some other beings who is the actual commander, who actually takes decision. Brain, mind, all these ego, super ego, these are all just, so you can say, just helpful tools. The supreme commander, the supreme decision making authority is somebody else. I don't really know what to call it again. So basically, what the work of superego is, it decides if the impulse is morally right or wrong. Okay. The part of our psyche develop this part of our psyche develops during the ages of 3 to 5. So superego develops basically between 3 to 5 years of age. So now superego will decide that okay, you want to rob a bank and you can rob a bank, but should you rob a bank? I mean, is it morally good? Is it a good thing to rob other people? Is it a good thing to, go to a bank, scare a lot of people and rob it? Is it morally good? So now this check will be given by superego. And according to Freud, superego consists of two parts or two things, that is conscience and ideal self. The role of conscience now. Conscience, you might have heard this word a lot of time. So this is basically a part of superego. And what is its role? Its role is to punish or reward the individual, depending on the behavior, of course. I mean, say you had this feeling of robbing the bank, okay, so superego will definitely try to stop you, like it's like the good or the moral aspect of your personality, so it will definitely try to stop you. So in order to do this, it will give you feelings of guilt, that no, 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 what you are doing is wrong. Think about all the people who work so hard in their lives to have to get that money, and now you will just rob all of them. What will their family do? Maybe their kids will go hungry and all those kind of things. So it will basically make you feel guilty if you're doing a bad thing. And if you did a good thing, or you're thinking about doing a good thing, it will make you feel proud, you see. And maybe you're thinking about it, I want to become a police officer and I will defeat crime and uh, crime from this world. I will remove all those vicious people. I will send them all behind bars. I will make this world a good place. So now, super ego, this conscience will give you feelings of pride. All right, it will make you feel more proud that yeah, I am a good person. I will do these things. You get this feeling basically, that get this feeling of pride. So these are These are handled by conscience. Basically, superego makes you feel proud or guilty based on your behavior. Okay. Now the second concept, that is the concept of ideal self. The ideal self relates your behavior to your idealized picture of yourself. So we all have this picture of ourselves, right? Like what we want to become. This picture can include many things. For most people, it only includes profession, all right? That I want to become an IAS officer, I want to become a doctor, I want to become a scientist, I want to become an astronaut. So all of us have this idealized picture within our brains, right? I have to become that. And you imagine yourself being that person, like being that guy, being in that profession, doing that thing, right? So this is your ideal self. Some people might include more things into the ideal self, like they might include height, weight, or how they look, or what kind of car they are driving, what kind of place they're living in, or what kind of behavior they are exhibiting, what kind of personality they have. So this is our ideal self, okay, that what do we ultimately eventually want to become like. And if you are behaving according to your ideal self, then you will feel proud, you will have feelings of pride. But if you are feeling different from your ideal self, or how your ideal self should behave, if you are feeling different from it, if you are going away from your idealized image, then it will give you feelings of guilty, that what are you doing? You wanted to become that person, you wanted to become that thing, but what are you doing? You are going in the wrong direction, you are going into the wrong path. All right. So this is again handle like guilt and pride feelings. These are all again maintained by how you behave, how you act. So we've done superego as well. Now moving on to ego defense mechanisms. So ego defense mechanisms are nothing but defensive mechanisms that protect you from you know painful situations, or stress or anxiety creating situations. One of the role of ego is to protect the person from anxiety and stress. Okay, like I told you that if if there's a conflict between the impulsive demands of id and realistic demands of people, then there would be development of, like, if there's a conflict between id and ego, then there would be anxiety and stress, right? So one of the jobs of ego is to remove this anxiety and stress. That is why it, without thinking, it only thinks like whether or not it is possible, it gives a pass to the demands of the id. So it's one of its works is to remove this source of stress, they remove the source of tension. So how does it do it? I mean, in most cases, obviously it's not able to do it. So it brings into effect some defensive mechanisms, okay, which try to alleviate this stress. Which, I mean, say like you have a kind of situation that like you want to marry some really rich celebrity, okay, and you're really stressed about it because you are a poor person, or you're really a poor guy, or you don't have the qualifications, you haven't met each other, you don't know each other, so you basically can't do it. You just imagine the situation that you can't do it. So there would be a definite amount of stress, there would be a definite amount of anxiety in your brain, right? So if this stress takes on a like takes on a really big form, it develops too much, then your ego will put into effect some defensive mechanisms which won't be able to correct the situation. I mean, it won't be able to make you go and marry that princess or marry that girl, but it will be able to make you feel better, or it will be able to take some amount of your stress, or at least you can say for some period of time. So basically saying that it will not it will not you know do that thing that you wanted to do, but it will just do something that will help you remove that stress. So its main focus is not to actualize your goals, its main focus is to remove uh, the things, the burden that is being created due to the unachievement of that goal. This is the work of ego. And how does it do this? It obviously does this through several defensive mechanisms, which we're going to read about now. It's written here that there are 8 defense mechanisms, but there are only 7, sorry. At least only 7 are given in this table. So to do this, we tend to use some psychological strategies known as ego defense mechanisms. So ego defense mechanisms are nothing but psychological strategies, or psychological, like methods to remove this stress, to remove the source of stress, or to alleviate it, to bring it down. It's basically, you can say it's like kind of tricks. It's kind of it's like tricks to fool your mind, to fool your brain into thinking that the situation is done, that the situation is handled, that there is no need to take stress anymore, it's already done, life is good, everything is going good. So the 7 important defense mechanisms are repression. First is repression, excluding from your conscious awareness those impulses or memories that are too frightening or painful. Imagine that you had an accident, or you saw an accident and you got really shocked about it, or maybe there's some incident in your life that is really horrifying, some kind of childhood trauma. So over time your brain will, I mean, if it's creating if it's been stressful for a long amount of time, it's if it's been really long and the stress just doesn't go back, it just keeps on increasing. So ultimately your brain might try and you know put into effect this repression. It will try to remove, it will try to over time erase those painful memories from your conscious mind, from your conscious awareness. I mean, they will obviously be somewhere inside your brain, but you will stop thinking about them. They will stop coming into your brain, they will stop coming into your thoughts, at least while you're awake. You see, like you had some really painful incident back in your childhood, and even after so many years and years, it still comes into your brain, you still think about it, and you feel really bad. So if it reaches a certain point, if this stress, if this anxiety reaches a certain point where you can't take it anymore, your brain over time might start to erase those memories, start to hide those memories from your conscious brain. So these memories are still inside you, but they are hidden deep now. You won't be thinking about them anytime now. Second of this is rationalization, assigning logical or socially desirable motives to what we have done so that we seem to have acted rationally. So you see, like in many movies, the villain says that, oh, I did this was for the good of the people, was for the good of my family. What did I do wrong? This world is cruel and we have to be cruel in order to do this and that and that. So you basically assign some rational motives. You assign some socially acceptable motives to your unsocially acceptable acts, or you can say socially unacceptable acts. So you assign socially acceptable motives to socially unacceptable acts. All right. So you say that what I did might have been wrong, but why I did wasn't wrong. Okay. So I did this for the right purpose. My methods could have been wrong, but my aim was good. My purpose was good. So it's nothing but a kind of trick, a kind of method to fool yourself that what you did was basically good. It was all right to do it. so that you don't feel guilty. Okay, I mean, if you did something and you keep on feeling guilty about it, your mind will start giving you suggestions that no, 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 what you did was good, you had to do it, you had no other choice, and you just had to do it, it had to be done, otherwise someone else would have done it, and so on and so on and so on, like assigning some rational motive to your acts. Like most murderers, if you go to some jail and you start interviewing them, most murderers would probably say that what we did was for this reason. I mean, they'll give you satisfying reason that they had to do it. Okay, I mean, every other person knows that they are criminals, they are actually hardcore murderers, and there was no need to do it. But somewhere in their mind, they have convinced themselves that yeah, it was necessary. They had to do it. It was important. It doesn't matter even if they are in jail now, or if all the world thinks that they are wrong. What they did was actually right. So they'll just convince themselves to such an extent. Third is the reaction formation. It occurs when an individual has an unacceptable or unwanted response or feeling and responds to it by exhibiting behaviors that are opposite to their true feelings or nature. So you see, I mean, this one is a little bit hard to understand because this defense mechanisms is not applied most of the time. But since I have myself felt all of these seven ego defense mechanisms for a very long time, I can pretty much explain it to you, or at least I'll try to explain it satisfactorily. So sometimes it happens, you see, that you have some kind of desires, you have some kind of feelings, but you're not ready to accept those feelings. Okay, you don't want to accept that you're this kind of person, you're that guy, you have these kind of feelings. So you will start doing things which are opposite to it, to to satisfy yourself that see, I am doing these things, I actually like these things, I'm not that kind of person. So see, maybe that you see that you're born into a gangster family. Okay, and even you yourself know that you like to see violence, you like to see people beating and hurting each other. It's somewhere inside your brain, and you realize that your brain is thinking like that. So you might start doing good things, you might start being with people, you might start helping people, to fool yourself and tell yourself that no, see, I like helping people, in fact I don't like hurting people, I like helping people. Or there could be several other examples for this as well. I mean, like, say that addiction is a really good example of it. See, like, you smoke. Okay, like you just started smoking, or you can say, and then you feel like smoking again and again, but you don't want to admit to yourself that you're addicted to smoking. Okay, so you'll just try to leave smoking for maybe 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. You'll say, see, I'm leaving, I've left smoking, I don't smoke. In fact, you might start doing some productive things and say to yourself constantly that, see, I'm doing these good things, I'm a good guy, I'm not like some cheap smoker who just smokes and do unproductive things, just lays away all day. You start telling yourself that this is actually who I am and not that. I mean, you might be able to fool yourself for some time, but not long. Over time, then your brain will start saying that, yeah, 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 obviously I'm this kind of person. Now I can smoke sometimes, at least I can smoke a little times. It's not harmful. I mean, I know I'm not addicted to it. I know I'm not that kind of person. So you'll go back to your bad habits, your old habits again. This is what reaction formation is. Concealing a motive from ourselves by giving strong expression to the opposite motive. Like you're developing some kind of desire, some kind of feelings, but you don't want to admit them. So you'll start doing opposite, exactly opposite to what those feelings or those desires are telling you to do, so that you can convince yourself that I don't like those things really. That's why I'm not doing it. Okay. Fourth is projection. Now projection is very, very evident, and it happens all the time with people who are in stress. In fact, it happens with majority of people. So projection is a really uh, a widely used ego defense mechanism. It is where an individual attributes their own thoughts, feelings, or motivations onto someone else. It involves perceiving one's own undesirable qualities or feelings as belonging to other person. Okay, so like all the undesirable qualities that you have, all the bad feelings that you have, you might start thinking that it is not you who have these feelings but the other person. Okay, so like you get agitated really easily, so you might start thinking in fact that the other person, that whoever you talk to, that person get agitated so easily, he's always so he's always so rude and agitated. And in fact, it might be that you are the person who's always rude and agitated, but you'll start thinking that, yeah, that guy is so rude, he's always so agitated, he's always so angry. Okay, you start projecting your own desires onto someone else. I mean, like you say na, that a hypocritical person, you can say. That's what it is. So you'll basically, like, you might be the uncooperative person in a team, and will start saying that this team is so uncooperative, this guy is so uncooperative, you can't cooperate with him. And in fact, you're the guy who's really uncooperative, who doesn't want to cooperate with anyone, who's socially awkward, who can't get to, be on good terms with anyone. But you'll start projecting your own feelings onto other people, and you'll start seeing your undesirable qualities in other people. I mean, they might even not even have these qualities. Obviously, or everyone have these kind of qualities, and you might not start noticing them. But when this stress, when this tension, when this anxiety reaches a huge point, a boiling point, a burning point, then you'll start creating these undesirable qualities or feelings into someone else, even when they do not actually have them. Yeah, I know these experiences firsthand, of course. Fifth is intellectualization. I mean, I've actually felt all of these ego defense mechanisms for years and years and years. I mean, I actually went through 5 years of clinical depression straight, so I know how all of these things feel about. I have an actual experience in all these things. Then comes our intellectualization, attempting to gain detachment from a stressful situation by dealing with it in abstract intellectual terms. So currently, yeah, I'm currently the current ego defense mechanism I'm applying to my situation is intellectualization. So what happens in it is that I start thinking that these are abstract things, these are outwardly things, and they can't actually affect me. I'm somewhere deep inside, and all these abuses, all these these stressful situations, these bad situations, they aren't actually hurting me. I mean, they are just outside. You can just ignore them. I can just ignore them. All right. They are really not affecting me. I am somewhere deep inside, I'm somewhere inside of me, and these things cannot affect me. These are material, these are outside things, these are abstract things. Okay. So you when especially nowadays when I'm in a stressful situation, obviously my source of stress is uh, let's just forget it. So what I'm saying is that I'm in a stressful situation, so I feel like, I'm watching myself from some from some other point of view. Like, I'm not sitting here. In fact, I'm watching this situation from somewhere outside, that I can see my dad sitting here, and I can see myself sitting here uh, from some outside view. And so this is the person who is in this stressful situation. It's not me. Okay, it's not me. It's just my body, or it's just a part of me, and it is not actually me. So all these things are not being said to me, and I can't feel all these things. I can't feel the sadness. I can't get hurt by all these things. So I like, you kind of gain detachment. That's what they're saying, detachment from a stressful situation. You start thinking that the person in the stressful situation is not you. It's, you can think of it as like it's just your body, or it's just a part of you. You are not actually the one who's in the situation. Then comes sixth is denial, denying that an unpleasant reality exists. You start denying things. Okay, you start forming your own fantasy world. You start saying that no, 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 these kinds of things don't happen. Like, for a really long time, until I knew the existence of the kind of violence, the kind of gore and violence, and all those kind of bloody things that are taking place all around the world. Okay, after I knew it for several days, I was like shocked. I was so shocked, I didn't know what to do. Like, for the first time, I saw the reality of the world, and I didn't know how to deal with it. So much stress, so much anxiety within me, that I became fearful of going out, even stepping outside of my home, because I was so afraid. I didn't know what would happen to me. Like, someone could pick me anytime, and you know do so many kinds of things. I mean, you don't know the kind of things I've seen, so obviously you have no idea. But I became so fearful, I became so scared. And over time, like, the stress reached such a point that obviously I knew that if I let it go some higher, like I let it go to higher points, it would obviously restrict me from doing anything at all. I mean, I can't spend all of my life sitting at home. afraid of the outside world. So I started creating this denial of situation. I started creating that, oh no no no, all those videos, all those things were just fake. That's not real. I mean, or I started saying to myself that the ratio of these things happening is very little. I mean, this is like just 0.1 or 2% of all the things that happen in the world. So good things are what I will get. Most of the things are good and not bad things. Okay, so I kind of started creating this situation. I started denying the existence of this reality. I started denying, I started telling my brain that these kind of things don't actually exist. These are very, very, really rare cases. Okay, all the things that exist in this world are actually good and peaceful and not so vile and vicious and so. So this is what you create, a situation of denial. You deny that such a situation actually exists. You give it forms of your fantasy. You give it forms of unrealistic behavior. You give it forms of like these are fake things or they are really rare. So you kind of try to deny the situation that no, it doesn't exist. That's what it basically means. Then comes displacement, directing a motive that cannot be gratified in one form into another channel. Now, this is the only ego defense mechanism which actually tries to, solve the problem of the situation. Instead of just removing the stress factor, it actually tries to solve the root cause of the problem and then remove that stress naturally. So yeah, of course, one of the most evident and most practical example of this would be the gratification of our sexual desires, right? So up to a certain age, in fact even after a certain age, like most of us people are not able to gratify our sexual desires, right? We are not able to find a partner and satisfy ourselves sexually. So at some point of time, like people might start buying toys or other kinds of things or artificial things to satisfy these needs, right? And this is what it is. If you couldn't find an actual partner, a real partner to satisfy your sexual needs, you found yourself a substitute. You found yourself a toy or a artificial product or something like that to fulfill that very same desire, right? So this is what it is, directing a motive that cannot be gratified in one form into another form, okay, into another channel. So you couldn't channelize your feelings of sexual desires into a real person, so you started channelizing those things, those feelings, into artificial toys or artificial equipments. This is what displacement is. Next is Freud's psychosexual stages of development. Okay, so these psychosexual stages of development, this is a really big and important part. So we'll cover it up in the next video. I think this one is already long enough, 56 minutes. So see you soon.